Today on our show, we got vampires, we got zombies, we got werewolves, we got semen. Yeah, that's all gonna make sense when you listen to this episode of the Nerdynomicon. Welcome to the Nerdynomicon. I'm one of your hosts, Robbie, and with me today is the beautiful, the luxurious, the sultry, the sensual, the sinful Adrian Steve. Adrian, how you doing today, brother?
You can't see it because I never have my camera on, but I'm smiling through wincing pain at that intro. It is the worst. That is the worst word you can end on.
The way I introduce you in, or the semen?
The semen. Of course, the semen.
We'll get to the semen. We'll get to the semen of it all. But
damn it! I have to follow semen. I feel like
you've got to follow semen.
I'm the comic coming up on stage after somebody just killed or bombed, and you're like, what am I supposed to do?
How could I
this?
follow semen? Like literally, how do I follow semen? There's no following semen. Can you follow semen, Adrian?
I'm sure there's videos. I'm sure I don't want to see them.
Yeah, we're gonna dive into this pretty quick, man. This is gonna be we're gonna dive into get a lot to talk about with semen. We're gonna keep this much more lighthearted than last episode. Last episode got more than a little bit heavy and weighty. So we chose a comedy to talk to you guys about today.
No shit. We did not hit our needed or required dick and ball jokes last episode, so we have to make up for it today.
No, the ogre is going to be very happy with this episode. I have a feeling.
And we missed a couple months in between, so we really gotta.
Well, there was a
catch
lot
back
going
up there.
on. There was a lot going on. We got a global pandemic. This is an election year. We got personal stuff on both of our sides. We got semen out there just flying around. We got cops beating innocent civilians. There's a bit of fuck ton going on, dude. And I haven't even talked about the lack of milkshakes. I've had so few milkshakes this year compared to other years. But we persevere.
I feel like milkshakes is not the transition you want after talking about semen.
That's why I threw the cops in there. we spent a lot of time talking about bad cops beating pedestrians and protesters and just innocent passerbys and stuff like that, and discussing the Joker. I realized as I was talking, I'm so tired right now that it kind of came out as word vomit, and even after saying vomit, I'm gonna chase it up with semen. And I realized that semen was not exactly the place I wanted to be right there, because I really, really, really want a milkshake right now. And that's just a weird transition. So I'm going to throw in police brutality. So I'll let that be the comma. Police brutality is the comma in between semen and milkshakes.
Please tell me you wanted a milkshake before saying the word semen.
Dude, I've wanted a milkshake since last week, okay?
Oh my God.
Overall, how have you been, man?
I can't even think. That's one of those words that once it gets thrown out there, like you're just off. You're off your game.
And we'll be circling back to semen.
Oh my
We'll be
God.
circling back to it.
I am doing okay. I'm a little tired. But if you ever want to perk somebody up, bust them right out of their funk, just start throwing the word semen around. Apparently that's a cure for what ails you. How are you doing,
So
Robbie?
the semen is the cure for what ails you, huh?
The word, not the substance. I'll make that very clear.
Just because I know you're going to follow it up, I'll just preemptively answer. I've been doing very well myself. Very busy. Lot of irons in the fires and everything. I don't even remember if we talked about it because there was so much police brutality and just anarchy in the last episode, but I have gone back to school, wrapped up with my summer semester. That's part of the reason for my hiatus from everything. Getting ready for the fall semester right now. I've got straight A's, so yay, that's a thing.
I'm sorry,
So, yeah,
I'm not
everything's going
listening
well.
to you as much as I should be because I'm just laughing about how you're preemptively, quote unquote, preemptively answering a question that I literally did ask you. You're like, I'm gonna preemptively...
I don't recall you actually asking me, and how are you? I just recall you
did.
saying, did you actually ask
did.
that? I'll have to
I
listen to the
definitely did.
playback.
It was like at the end of a sentence.
I totally don't think you did.
I might have had the word semen in it and it threw you off, but I definitely was like, and how are you? You're like,
Everybody's
well,
tripping
you
around
asked me,
semen today.
because you're going to ask me, I'm sure you're going to ask me. I'm going to preemptively answer the question.
I'm going to preemptively answer the question. You're like, I asked you, dude. It was bookended by semen, but the question was there.
So, good.
But I'm good.
I'm going to go with you said good.
Yes, I am good.
I was trying so hard not to laugh over top of what you were saying, but as soon as there was a break, I was like, hey, by the way, I'm not listening because I can't focus. That's
fine. Welcome to marriage, right?
I love you. Take out the trash.
Make me a sandwich.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So let's talk about what we do in the shadows.
Iron Fist.
That's going to be...
Semen. Wait, what?
Wait, what? Iron Fist the porno? Iron Fisting everything all over the place. So let's talk about what we do in the shadows.
Let's talk about it.
This is a show that was inspired by a film written and directed by Taika Waititi. I've been a big fan of this guy ever since I've seen this movie. The masses may know him from a little film, I think it was an indie project by a very small studio called Disney. Taika actually made an independent film called Thor Ragnarok.
I believe the studio is pronounced Disney.
Disney, my mistake. So that is where you may recognize that name. But long before he brought Thor out of Ragnarok, or to Ragnarok, I don't know. All over the face, neck, and chest of Ragnarok. He made a film called What We Do in the Shadows. Now, I had seen the box cover for this, and I'd heard people talking about it. It just sounded... The name of it has a very weird indie sound to it, to me. And, I'm like, okay, everybody says it's good. I literally know nothing about this, so it's like, whatever. And then, now this is going back several years. Brooke sat me down. She's like, we're going to watch this. I'm like, okay, what is it? And I turned on a video game expecting, we'll watch something. I'll half pay attention to it unless it sparks my interest. Then I'll pause it, grab my notebook, and she'll be like, you're going to pontificate later, aren't you? And I'm like, fuck yes. Fuck yes. Adrian is going to be tortured because I'm going to talk about this. And actually, I think I did ramble about this ad nauseum to you, but I'm not positive about that. I might not even be on an episode. It might have just been one of the times we were talking. But I fell in love with it, man. It was a mockumentary about a day in the life of vampires. And so what we do in the shadows is literally the life and times of this household of vampires and what they do when, the horror aspect of it is not what's out on Front Street. Lots of people, they see the vampire movies. They see the vampire going after the innocent person or the next door neighbor, blah, 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 blah. But what do they do in that big house of theirs?
Yeah,
what is their relationship with Renfield and Dracula's little castle there? Is there semen involved? What is going on here? And What We Do in the Shadows answers that question, and it is hilarious. It's absolutely great.
Yeah, it's all the mundane stuff. It's as you said, it's a mockumentary, so it's very much in the style of The Office, but think The Office with vampires.
Yeah, and that's even just speaking about the film.
Yeah.
Several years later, it was announced that a TV series was in the works, and it's going to be coming over to the FX. So I got excited about it. And then a couple of people that I know and respect their opinions of, they said, I saw the first episode. It's not really that great. And it just kind of fell off my radar. And I'm like, oh, well, that's unfortunate. I'll just wait for, a season or two to come out and binge it. And then so many things happened. So many, intellectual properties came to fruition that we had to talk about. And it definitely fell off my radar in a big, bad way. So, Adrian, you brought this back into my purview here. And I'm like, okay, maybe I do need to watch this. There's 2 seasons up on Hulu right now for me to binge. I'll check it out. I have to say the first episode was not very good. And I was just like, it has some quotable lines, but it's kind of Napoleon Dynamite-y for me. A lot of quotable stuff, but it's okay. But I'm the type of guy I like to give a show a couple of episodes to find its footing before I truly make a judgment about it.
Which I think is fair, and most people should be willing to do that, especially with like a 25-minute comedy. Like, it's not that big of an investment.
Right. Most people do not do that. They'll give it an episode if they're lucky. If the show is lucky. Most times people will only tune in for the first 5-10 minutes of an episode. That's why a pilot has to be so strong. Paradoxically, lots of pilots are not that strong. They're not. They're just flat out not. And shows have gotten canceled by that, and critics have kicked themselves for, making their judgments based on that. Excuse me, I'm still pissed off about Selfie. That show was doomed right from the very first episode because the pilot episode was not great. And a lot of critics made their decisions and their assessments based on that. And the show ultimately was canceled only a few episodes in. The rest of them were released on Hulu. And Selfie is an amazing show.
It reminds me kind of what happened to the Dana Carvey show. I think there's a
very
documentary.
Similar.
I think we talked about it on Hulu, and it's like
we did.
We had an
entire episode on
it, but like the first opening sketch was like grotesque, and I was like, okay, well, fuck this show, and that's what a lot of critics were.
Yep, and I think the Dana Carvey show only lasted like maybe 3 or 4 episodes.
I want to say it was between 6 and 8, but it was not very long, and it was too bad.
But aired. Yeah, I mean, there's a difference between aired and produced.
I think
all of the episodes are up now. You can find them, but I don't. I could be lying to you, but I thought I remembered in the documentary that not all of the episodes were aired.
Yeah, I think at least 1 or 2 episodes was not aired, but outside of that, it was not a long run to begin with.
Not at all.
The fans of that show were literally like, "Hey, you guys didn't give this show a chance right from the beginning. You wrote it off, and you need to come back and check it out and try to get, you need to try to see what it is." And give it another shot to try and save it. Yep. And I think a critic or two really actually did. I think I remember in the documentary, one guy was like, oh shit, I was totally wrong about it. But at that point, it's too late, unfortunately.
Exactly.
Love you, Dana.
Oh, we do love you, Dana. He cares. He really does. So my point is, I did not care for the first episode of What We Do in the Shadows. I thought it had quotable lines, like I said, but ultimately it kind of fell flat. Mm-hmm. Then I watched the second episode and the third episode. And by the time I realized it, I was about halfway in to the first season, and it became a laugh riot. Mm-hmm. I could not stop laughing. It was so funny, so good. I thought that this was just going to be like a cheap, imitation ripoff of what they decided to do in the film. And I could not be more wrong. They may have started out that way just to kind of set the stage and let you know what they're going to do with the series. Mm-hmm. But they go off on their own tangents here and bring in so many different aspects of lore. I was blown away. So after watching the entirety of season 1 and then the entirety of season 2, I, of course, had to rewatch the entire series up to, where we are right now.
Yep.
After watching the entire series and then starting again with the very first episode, it's the weirdest paradox. It became one of the funniest episodes of the entire series because the only way I could describe it is, oh my God, this is vintage What We Do in the Shadows. But it's not. It was the very first episode. So there was no callback humor. It was the origination or the origin of everything that we were seeing. Mm-hmm. The rest of the series makes rewatching the very first episode better. And it's a very interesting thing when a show can do that. It may not have gotten me with that first episode. It took me a couple to get into it, but once I was there, the first episode just gets elevated with everything else that's going on.
We call that the Thor 2 paradox.
That's fair. Okay.
I'll just grind everything to a halt. Anyway, semen. And,
Anyway, semen.
But I think we'll go into details at some point here soon. I definitely want to call out spoilers before we do that, but I'm not sure we're there yet. But there are some specifics that I would love to talk about.
Including semen.
Yeah. Before we get there, though, I highly recommend, if you are a fan of comedies, if you're a fan of that kind of Office style of humor, check it out.
The Office, Parks and Rec, stuff like that. It's very along those lines as far as the presentation of the humor.
But the best thing about it is it's not forced to be as grounded because you have supernatural subjects.
Right.
You have undead subjects. And so if they exist, what else exists? And what can we play around with? How can we put these characters in these mundane kind of situations but are supernatural and they don't care because it's all the same to them,
And hey, kids, Mark Hamill makes a cameo.
He does, but not till season 2.
Not till season 2. But there's a lot of cameos that we're going to be getting to in the spoiler section. We're not going to spoil the entirety of the series because there's a lot of stuff that you just want to sit back and let happen to you. But there's going to be a few things that we're going to discuss and talk about because I think that it's funny, it's self-referential. This series is very intelligently written because I always respect a lot of shows that have callback humor to their own properties, whether it be the films that they're inspired by, a shared universe that you didn't even realize was a shared universe to begin with, or more importantly, jokes that just keep going that may show up like in episode 1 and then again in episode 7, then maybe again 2 or 3 times at the beginning of season 2, then come to a culmination at the end of season 2. Just certain things that keep getting attention brought back to it.
Mm-hmm.
I love humor like that. Community was rife with it. That's why I find it to be one of the funniest shows ever. I love stuff like that. I love running bits. I love self-referential humor. And What We Do in the Shadows is chock full of it. I mean, I've only seen the series 1.5 times so far, and I can guarantee you there's things that I've missed. So I think that this is a show that warrants multiple viewings. Absolutely. To try to see how many of the jokes that you just flat out missed, because you gotta move quick. Because they know what they're doing on the show. We've
watched it numerous times all the way through and just thoroughly enjoyed the show. It's kind of gotten into our rotation. I also want to jump back to really quick because I'm not sure how long of an episode we can do on What We Do in the Shadows. Probably super long, but I know we're both kind of tired. But I want to pad our time.
Yeah, we're going to keep this short. Also, with a comedy show like this, I don't think that... For one thing, I don't really think that there's a whole lot to analyze in this film. There's a lot that we can discuss and talk about.
Yeah.
But a comedy, you really should just let happen to you. When it's something like The Joker, that's an experience that warrants a conversation afterwards. And, we try to be a show that facilitates that conversation. This is something you just need to experience and let it happen to you. And we don't want to spoil a lot of the jokes.
Absolutely.
We just want to bring you in on the jokes. This is an episode I want to be where you can listen to it and be like, all right, I listened to the first half. I'm interested in the show. Then you go back and re-listen to it and you're right in there and you're like, oh God, semen.
But I do want to go back to something you said about Community because I discovered that show so much later than almost everybody else did. Or I guess a lot of people discovered
5 years after I did.
But I really love having the opportunity to talk about it because it's been in heavy rotation since we started watching it. Probably a couple months ago. It's been in heavy,
you gave me
rotation.
shit about going back to school using Community as a barometer. Like, I am not interested in what you're talking about right now. Now, if you were taking ladders, that would be different. Why aren't you taking the history of ice cream, Robbie? I'm like, because it was not offered at that school, Adrian.
I do have to say...
Distance learning.
I don't know who came up with the storyline or the ongoing joke, but I think one of my favorite through lines that they have through a couple seasons is the AC repair school and the reverse Goodwill Hunting they do with Troy is just absolutely genius. It's so fucking funny. It's so good. I love that fucking.
So what are you gonna do? Be a plumber? No, because they have to deal with poop.
And I think one of Tavia's favorite points in the series is when they're going into the sun chamber and that one guy is all like, I hope you brought your popsicles. There are no rules. And they're like, are you on coke? Of course there are rules. Take that shit off. Like, it's so well done because they can reference things, but also have the people in the show not go along with the reference. Be like, what are you doing? Like, stop.
Yep. One of Brooke's favorite episodes actually, I think it is her favorite episode, is Pillows and Blankets. Which is set up as a documentary itself, almost in a Civil War type fashion. You know, almost like they're discussing what happened in the Civil War, but it's a giant pillow fight.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm pretty sure my favorite episode of all is the Glee episode where they're singing for the Christmas pageant.
Oh God!
And it just develops.
Boop sex.
Yes, Annie's song makes me laugh so fucking hard because
it's so true.
I wasn't around during like the times that the seasons and the shows were coming out, but I can just imagine how many like people were just like, oh, just make Annie hot, put her in some sexy stuff, and just like they were just clamoring for it. And so to have them do it, but in the like most obvious and stupid in your face way, I can't help but laugh every single time because they just make her look dumber and dumber and dumber as it goes on.
Which is the point too, you know? That whole
so
little
beautiful.
girl thing that supposedly turns guys on, and then Jeff just literally says exactly what's in my brain. Okay, at some point you reached a level of diminishing returns on the sexiness. What's it diminishing?
I also love
And how much do you want to believe that was an ad-libbed line?
I don't know.
That was not in the script.
I don't know, but I love it. Also, I think I lose it. I lose it every time as it just gets more and more ridiculous. But when he slaps the mistletoe out of her hand, like I can't at that point.
Yep.
It's funny because he's not having any of it, but it still gets him anyways.
Yep.
Anyways, so Community sidetrack.
A sidetrack on a completely different show. If you have not seen Community, watch it. It's funny. I love it. It's made by the same guy that made Rick and Morty, which was far more successful, and everybody knows that one. So if you like Rick and Morty, I can almost guarantee you're going to love Community.
Also directed by Infinity Wars and Endgame directors? Russo brothers? Hello? No?
Were the Russo brothers involved in Community?
I'm pretty sure they were.
I cannot testify to. I'm not positive on that. I know that Dan Harmon is the creator and showrunner for it, but I don't know about the Russo brothers.
Pretty sure, buddy. Pretty sure. Brothers have also worked as directors and/or producers. Arrested Development, Community from 2009 to 2014. So
they
might have just been producers.
Right on.
Because I know one of the names that jumps out. God, we're doing a Community episode at this point. But one of the names.
We'll get off of Community in just a minute.
One of the names that jumped out to Tavia is a guy named Kyle Newacek, I believe, and he was producer or director for Workaholics, and she really, really loved that show. So there's all these really cool like through lines between all these major successful people with lots of money that I don't have either of. Anyways, Seaman. Which it might be why they're successful. It's a perfect segue.
What, the semen?
Yes.
Yeah, that might be why. So what do you think?
Let me just throw everyone's career down the toilet. Like, you didn't earn anything. You have no talent.
It's just your cum.
Or someone else's was kind of the implication, but that's okay.
So I guess we're at about, 25 minutes, give or take, in the podcast. I'm going to throw this out there. If you have not seen Community, watch it. If you have not seen What We Do in the Shadows, that's what we're going to be focusing on for the rest of this episode. We're going to dive into some of the lore, some of the jokes. some of the humor. We're going to talk about it. So, did you have anything else to say before we start jumping into spoilers here?
How about before we go into spoilers, let's do ratings so that people don't have to try to find it at the end.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Rough ratings.
All right. Out
rough.
of what, 5 or 10 fangs?
Whatever you want to do. I think it's easier if it's out of 5 because you get more room for error. You know, you can be a lot more general. You know, if you start going up to like 100, out of 100, it's like, oh shit, like how do I justify a 93 instead of a 92?
Now, this is some blasphemy for me because I did not give Joker a perfect score. But at the same time, I'm going to go ahead and give What We Do in the Shadows a perfect 5 fangs. Now, despite the fact that I even said the pilot did not drag me in, the pilot, after rewatching the series, like I said, was absolute brilliance. The show has rewatchability just oozing out of it. The characters are hysterical. They're infuriating yet endearing. They're total cinnamon rolls, okay? The entire cast are cinnamon rolls. I love this show, and I'm proud to say that it's one of my favorite new programs to even have on in the background while I'm playing, like, Sekiro or something like that. So I love it. I absolutely love it. Brooke loves it. I'm slightly ashamed to say that my 4-year-old son loves it. Yes, there's blood and a lot of F-bombs. Why did I say F-bombs instead of just saying fuck? We've been talking about semen for a half an hour. I love it. Full thanks.
I was leaning towards 4 fangs out of 5, but I'm not really sure why. I can't really justify it. I'm not sure I can justify a perfect score either, because I felt if I felt it was perfect, I feel like I should already know that. So I'm gonna land at 4.5. Solid.
Okay.
I honestly do believe I think it's one of the best comedies on TV right now.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. It's one of the best written, best acted, best produced. The show knows what it wants to do. It has drama. It has mystery. It has humor. It has a lot of cameos. I mean, it has star power in this show.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of star power, which we're going to get to here in just a minute. But yeah, it's very well worth it.
So, ringing endorsement from both of us. If you haven't watched it yet, find a way to watch it. It's up on Hulu. Hulu's cheap. Get it. Watch it. Cancel it after you're done, I guess, or keep it forever so you can continue to watch it forever. You know, whatever floats your boat.
And then circle back to this episode of the Nerdynomicon where we're going to dive into spoilers. And are you ready to do so? Because I cannot wait to start talking about some of these things.
Yes. Spoilers now.
All right. I'm going to make you wait on the semen, Adrian, Steve, because I need to talk about the trial, okay?
Oh,
Oh, my God, the trial. I could not believe it.
The Vampire Council.
I didn't even get all of the references at first. I actually had to turn to Brooke. You start out with Tilda Swinton. I'm like, when the hell was she a vampire? And it starts to go down the list. The guy that's basically conducting and being the, you know, for lack of a better term, seeing as though it was filled with theatrics, the MC.
Yeah.
It has the cast of the film of What We Do in the Shadows, including Taika Waititi in it.
Yep.
So they reprise their roles to show up as the Vampiric Council.
I actually, more than the people that they got, I love the references to the people that they didn't. I mean, they're like,
oh, God,
they're all
yes.
like, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, I mean.
You've got Evan Rachel Woods in there from True Blood reprising her role. You've got Wesley Snipes as Blade calling in over Skype.
Yep, the Daywalker.
The Daywalker. And then you start to go down the role, like you said. And that's where I started to slip a little bit. When they said, Tom and Brad, we couldn't get them. Oh, they did not want to do it. They didn't want to do it. They didn't want to do it. And obviously they're talking about Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt from Interview with the Vampire.
Yep.
You know, making jokes not only about the fact that they were in a vampire movie, but also that they're big name stars. Why the hell would they be on this stupid little show on FX?
Now, I heard a story, though.
Tilda Swinton and Evan Rachel Woods are on it. So is Wesley Snipes. So
I heard a story, and I'm not sure if it's true or not. They did actually invite Tom and Brad. They didn't hear back from Tom. Brad Pitt missed the invitation initially, And after he realized he actually wanted to be on there, but they had already written the episode without him in it, and they were just like, "Oh, we can't change it at this point." So maybe at some point he'll show up because.
Oh my God, that's awesome. That's awesome. If that's true, I would love to believe that story is true. I would love that. The next one, the one that I didn't get right at first was when they said, Rob, he wanted to distance himself from this. He doesn't want to do it. He doesn't want to do this.
Yeah.
Initially, I looked back at Brooke. I'm like, which one is Rob? And she looks at me, Rob Lowe? He was in Salem's Lot? And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Rob Lowe didn't turn into a vampire, did he? Am I remembering Salem's Lot wrong? Not realizing, oh my fucking God, Twilight. Rob Pattinson. Yeah. What the shit? Oh my God, Rob Pattinson. Oh, damn. And that's true. He does not want to reprise his role as Edward at all, like ever. I actually started to respect Robert Pattinson when he started to be like, yeah, I don't like Twilight at all. I think it's kind of dumb, but it's a hell of a paycheck, and the fans love it, so I'm going to finish out the series, but yeah, no.
The funny thing is, though, it's not reprising the role. They're all playing themselves who happen to be vampires, were cast as vampires in movies.
Yep. Evan Rachel Wood's was the best, where they're like, Evan, the princess of the darkness. Hi, guys. Yeah, Evan's fine. You don't need to worry about the rest of it. It's just Evan. That's cool. I'm like, oh my God, I love you. You're so adorable.
I love when they called out for Kiefer and it's like, it was just an availability thing. Like,
I would believe that too, that it was an availability thing for Kiefer Sutherland.
Oh man. But yeah, I think that episode was like hands down was like, if you made it that far into that series, you should have already been hooked. But if you weren't, that's like you're not getting out of this series. Like you are staying with this until the bitter end because this is fucking awesome.
Now, Brooke was one of the people that watched the pilot of it and whose opinion I respect as well, that she didn't care for it. So when I started to watch it and I'm like, do you want to watch this with me? She's like, nah, I'm going to do something in the other room. So as I'm continuing to watch this, for the podcast, and then I'm like, wait a minute, I love this show. So I just looked at her, please, will you sit down and just watch one more episode with me, please? She's like, you've given things second chances for me. I'm never going to forget about Titanic. I appreciated it. Sure, I'll sit down.
Oh, man. You lost your Titanic card. I don't think you should have lost your Titanic card on What We Do in the Shadows.
Dude, I still have cards to play. I still have The Notebook. I still have Walk to Remember.
And Titanic, that's a big one.
Titanic was a big one, but, when push comes to shove, sometimes you need to play the Titanic card.
Yeah.
So she sat down and watched it. I think she may like this show even more than I do at this point. Like, I've come home from work, and she's just in the office writing. That's on in the background. I'm like, are you doing another watch through? Yeah. I can't help it. The show's brilliant. It's so good. I'm like, it is so good.
It took a little while to get its feet, but once it did, it was really, really good.
Exactly.
Really good. And
exactly.
Being able to pull off getting all these stars to come in, even just for an episode, for a 5-minute bit, if that, with minimal lines amongst all of them, like that's incredible. That's I never would have expected it. And that's why it's so good. And that's why if you have not seen this show and you're still listening past the spoilers, you suck because it's supposed to be a surprise.
It is supposed to be a surprise. And I'm going to give you another cameo. In season 2, you get Haley Joel Osment from Sixth Sense, from Tusk, from what else has he been in of note?
Stuff.
Yoga Hosers. I love Haley Joel Osment, and frankly, I think that he's turned into a pretty damn good actor himself. He ends up as like a fucking Wall Street guy-esque as far as like personality, and becomes a zombie.
Yep.
Topher!
But before we go into season 2, let's finish season 1.
Yeah, you're right. Season 1, you have so many jokes. A big one being Nadia's lover that keeps getting decapitated and resurrected as someone new.
Yep.
And the joke just keeps getting more expanded and expanded and expanded as you find out how many different incarnations he's come back as. And you're like, how old are these people to have him come back how many times? Wait a minute. Gregor came back as a washerwoman? Gregor came back as a fucking horse? Yeah. And you found him as a horse? What is going on here? And again, it is a joke that keeps on giving because it runs into season 2. And it's not in every episode. It was originated in the pilot. And then you don't hear about it again until what, like or episode 3, 4?
Yeah. They kind of drop it for a little bit and then they come back with it.
Right, but it doesn't have to stay a central part of the narrative.
Yep.
It's just something that continues on.
Yeah.
And it's become just something that Brooke and I say to each other as well. We'll just be walking, what is his name? Jeff. See, as he keeps getting reincarnated in different bodies, he becomes, somebody else entirely. It's still the soul of Gregor, her long-lost lover. But in right now, in this reality, in this time, he is a guy named Jeff. So as Nadia, the female vampire, is swooning over, oh, Gregor, it's actually Jeff Sucklet. Jeff Sucklet? Yeah. Oh, I don't know. No, I don't like it. So what did you want to talk about? Well, Jeff. Just the way she says it is just hysterical. It's brilliant acting. Brilliant acting.
I really, really, it's hard not to enjoy most of the things that they do in this. One of the things, like, I love that whole reincarnated lover plot line. I think one of the things that they never really fully explain, but they really explore throughout the whole series that I'm not sure that they really went into on the movie. I could be wrong because it's been a while, but Colin Robinson, the energy vampire.
The energy vampire is brilliant.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And no one.
And
really
it's also
knows.
Great attention to detail when you see Colin Robinson as well. In the second episode, there's a town hall meeting going on, and it's a medium, definitely medium, maybe even considered a long shot in certain perspectives, where you're just looking at the vampire sitting in the back of a town hall, and you can see Colin Robinson's eyes faintly, ever so faintly glowing purple as he's got this orgasmic look on his face.
Yep, because he's feeding.
Exactly. And so excited about it as well. And then as soon as he starts talking, he'll blink and his eyes are regular again and he's talking to everybody. Then he just leans his head back and then just without a transition, his eyes just start glowing again. It's brilliant attention to detail because it's so faint that you could easily miss it.
Oh, absolutely.
But it's a small detail like that they specifically throw in. And I think that that's great.
And so
Colin is actually my favorite character.
Yeah,
I think the
awesome.
character is great.
I love the episode where the emotional vampire comes into his office and they're like fighting with each other and then they're working together. Like it's so funny to see, like, okay, we know the standard vampires and that's what everyone knows and that's the typical lore, but now we have an energy vampire which essentially fits all the characteristics of a vampire outside of draining blood. And they
just drain your sanity and life force.
They just drive you crazy or they bore you. And it's like, God damn, how many energy vampires have I been around in my entire life? Like
exactly. Exactly.
Then to bring in the emotional aspect and it's like, I know these people too. Like, are there any non-vampires in this world beyond me?
Precisely. And then when they team up, when they both start fighting over this one guy, they even follow him into a bathroom stall, and the very next thing you see, he's lapsed into a coma. They drained him way too much. He got comatized. Like, he was so annoyed and so depressed by the two of these people, it drove him into a coma. It just brilliance. I'm like, wow, that is corporate America, isn't it?
I will say one of my favorite ongoing little jokes that they have is how it's Laszlo, right? That's his name, Laszlo?
Laszlo, yeah.
How he has to announce his transformations. They don't do it in the
Bats.
they don't do it in every single episode. I think they miss one or two at the very beginning of the series, but after that, he has to shout bat to turn into a bat. And he has to shout human form to come back and turn back into a human. And it takes something that's so cool and makes it so lame, but it's so funny.
I'm going to talk about the episode that made me fall over laughing. Fall over so badly that I spilled my soda all over the floor.
Let me guess. Can I guess?
Go for it.
I have two guesses.
Okay.
I'm going to guess it's either the episode where they took the Baron out for a night on the town, or it's the episode where Nandor's trying to get his citizenship and he reveals that he loves the Dream Team.
Both of them were hysterical. I'm specifically referring to the opening. I want to say it's the beginning right before the credits. The cold open for, I want to say it's like the last or second to last episode of season 1, where their familiar Guillermo, who is arguably the main character of the series, goes through and gets his Ancestry.com done for him and the rest of the house. And that is when he wakes up Nandor, who is his master vampire, who's the biggest pussy you've ever seen in your life, but he was apparently like this great conqueror in what's now modern day Iran. He subjugated thousands and thousands of people, became a vampire, and now he's just a giant puss, which is, the standing joke. But he wakes him up. Master, I got your Ancestry.com. How did you steal my semen? Do not steal my semen. The witches will try to steal my semen and use it for a semen spell. And as soon as he started saying that, and just that word, the way he said it with such earnestness, just started making me laugh. And then as soon as Laszlo and Nadia wake up, hey, he got this Ancestry.com. Don't let him steal your semen. The witches will come for your semen. I'm like, oh, God, what are you doing? And again, callback humor, because in season 2, you meet the witches that kidnap him to steal his semen.
It's really, really well written. And I think whether they had plans to make that into an episode or not, they remembered like, oh, we had this throwaway line and we want to actually do something with it. And it kind of reminds me a little bit of what the world they've built. This is a totally different series, a totally different type of show. But the world they've built in Better Call Saul based off of a couple throwaway lines from that character in Breaking Bad. And that's another show that I think is on your list from me that I'd say you
It
need
is
to
on
watch.
my list.
It's not as funny as What We Do in the Shadows.
Different type of animal. Speaking of animals, what I'm watching right now is the HBO series His Dark Materials. That's based on the book trilogy, I believe, starting with The Golden Compass. So that's what I'm watching right now. I'll at least touch on it in an upcoming episode just to give a comment on it one way or the other. So far, I like it, but enough about that now. That's what I'm watching currently.
Here's what I'll say. Don't start watching Better Call Saul until at least like the midway point through the final season. Like wait till they do that break and you know when the final episodes are coming out, because you're not going to want to stop watching it. It's really good. And you're going to be annoyed having to wait to watch it, because I know I'm annoyed having to wait to watch it. You know me, I love binging stuff.
Same here.
And What We Do in the Shadows and Better Call Saul are I think the only two shows that we will follow on a weekly basis. Like, we need to see the new one immediately. I guess you can throw John Oliver in there, but that's kind of more of a topical news thing.
Yeah, that is, I mean, sure, it has seasons. Yeah, they have hiatuses, but that's something different.
Yeah.
And I'm right there with you on John Oliver as well. But going back to What We Do in the Shadows, it finds a way to bring in so many different aspects of lore. We've already discussed zombies being in this. Werewolves are in the series as well. And funny enough, they find a way to fit in ghosts and the vampires don't believe in ghosts except for Nadia.
And they make fun of her for it, of course.
And they make fun of her for it, only to find out that there are, in fact, ghosts. And yet they find a way to make it absolutely hysterical by, once again, just setting up Nandor to be the foil right there at the beginning when he starts trying to charge at a ghost.
Which goes against that pussy background you're saying. I mean, he's a conscientious objector now. Like he's a pacifist now. Like he used to be a warlord.
Is he a pacifist?
He doesn't really want to fight anymore, but he is their champion. He's their champion against the werewolves. He's the one that goes out and attacks the ghosts. I feel like he feels like that's his role, but he doesn't really love it. Doesn't really want it. But Laszlo's not going to do it. The way that I see
it is a little bit different. That's his role, but he's so out of practice that he's so rusty with it. He's just like, yes, I will do this. How do I pick up the sword again? What's that? What is that? Okay, it's just like riding a bike. I will kill you now. Kind of like that,
There's so many good episodes throughout both of the seasons. There's very few like crummy episodes. There's like good episodes.
There's
an
online troll
fantastic.
That's an actual troll.
Yeah, I love the hat. I love Laszlo's hat.
The hat, yeah.
This is perfect. I don't want to go into super details, but I love that. I will say my favorite episode of the first season is probably the Vampire Council, because that drives a lot of what's happening after it.
That explains the entirety of season 2.
Pretty much.
Because season 2 is even more in-depth than season 1 because you have to pay attention to the background.
Yep.
Very similar to Community, there is a secondary plot happening in the background, not the foreground. Mm-hmm. So as you're paying attention to the episode, if you just glance in the background, you'll see, vampire assassins showing up. You'll see Guillermo having to do something. You'll see this. You'll see that. There is it's literally almost every single episode is 2 episodes in one, because there's so much going on that you may not even realize.
I think my favorite episode in season 2 is the one where they go on the hunt into the house. That one's just,
I would agree with that.
So good. I mean, they're all really good. I really like the final episode of the season 2, but like the hunt is that's just fantastic. Like everything that leads to put all of that together, and the Guillermo like freaking out like, oh no, and the plot line that's going on with the vampires in the house, and he's freaking them out, but he's getting freaked out because he thinks that other people are coming to get them, but then they're not, and he's so relieved, and then it turns out they're in a house of vampires anyways. It's fantastic. It's such a great misdirect all over the place.
So we're at a point right now, and we're at almost an hour. We wanted to keep this a little bit short for you guys. We've discussed some of our favorite episodes. We've discussed some of the running jokes. The rest is up to you. Because we're not going to, we could, but we're not gonna keep talking about the show ad nauseum. This is a show you just have to experience. There's so many jokes. There's so much humor. You even said it best. It's some of the best writing that's on television right now. It's definitely the funniest show that's on television right now. It's well acted, well produced, top to bottom. I love this show.
I have one question for you before we wrap up. And it's based off of stuff that happened in season 1.
Okay.
In your opinion, will the Baron come back?
Yes, absolutely.
That's what I'm thinking too. Yes. I'm surprised we didn't. I'm surprised nothing's happened. But I
am surprised about that as well. But I could see that happening maybe midway through season 3.
And I'm not going to spoil Mark Hamill's cameo, but I will say here's what I hoped it would be. So it might be a minor spoiler to the fact that it's not this. I really was hoping that he was going to come out and be almost like a Luke Skywalker, like a vampire hunter, but old and bad. Like, that's what I wanted. I wanted an old, terrible, bad vampire hunter. And I wanted it to be Mark Hamill so badly. I really did. I love what they did with him.
I could see that. But I could see that.
That wasn't my dreams. My heart was just calling out for it, and I just didn't quite get it. But I still loved what they did with him, and all the cameos are fantastic.
That would have been brilliant. That would have been absolutely brilliant. But that's not to take away with what we got from Mark Hamill, which was in itself brilliance. So, I think that's probably where we should leave it. Otherwise, we're going to spoil the entire series for everybody, and they're going to be like, what's the point of watching it now, fuckos?
Well, I mean, you weren't supposed to listen
see it
past,
actually happen.
You weren't supposed to listen past the spoiler, fucko. That's the point of it.
Very true.
Love you, though.
So
give us money.
Yeah. Speaking of which, patreon.com/nerdynomicon. If you like what we're doing here, if you like Adrian's snark, wit, and abrasiveness toward most things good and loving, or if you like me and my puppy doggish demeanor when it comes to discussing pop culture, if you want to help us produce this show, as well as the YouTube channel, youtube.com/nerdynomicon, you can head over to Patreon, donate $1 a month, $2 a month, less than the price of a cup of coffee every single month. It helps keep the lights on, the microphones clean, keeps the semen stocked for Adrian, all of these things. But if you are not in a financial position to do so, we get it, we understand. You can help us out in other ways, even just by sharing this around, telling people about us, your friends, your grandma, about the Nerdynomicon. Let her know that you've become a pop cultist. That's going to go very far in this day and age. With QAnon running everywhere, you want to be a pop cultist, man. We got to stand against the darkness and light a candle.
Don't start your grandma on this episode, though.
No.
That might be a little
Unless
bit
you
much.
think she's down for starting the episode out with a lot of semen.
Unless your grandma is way cooler than my grandma. Don't start them on this one.
Yeah, neither of my grandmas would have been down with this episode either. One of them probably would have tried to hit me and tell me I need Jesus.
I'm just glad none of my family listens to my show. I mean, they're already embarrassed enough of me, so really, why give them more ammunition?
I'm going to find your mother and just send her an episode. Be like, look what your son's doing. He's on an episode where we talk about semen.
She's like, I've heard worse. Let me tell you about the time he wanted to go get a music degree.
Oh, God. And on that musical note, guys, we're going to get out of here. Until next time, I've been Robbie.
And I've been Adrian.
Let's close the book.
The book of semen, I guess.
What's that?
I said the book of semen, I guess.
Oh, come on.
You're not going to be able to open it back up if you close it, though.
When I told you that I figured out the way I was going to open this, you had no idea I was going to be leading with that, did you?
Of course not. What kind of a person do you think I am?
The person that might have anticipated the semen.
Robbie, I never anticipate the things that you do. I've stopped trying.
You're welcome. I think. I'm pretty sure. All right. Do you have anything for the opener for this?
I really don't. I'm just
Okay.
excited you watched it, and I just want to chat about it.
Today on our show.
I mean, just go over.
All right,
the,
I got it.
Yeah, go
I
over
got
all
it.
the side stuff that you get. We got werewolves, and we've got zombies, and we've got necromancers, and we have vampires or something. I don't know, something like that.
I got it. I'll do that, but I'm going to do my own spin. All right, you ready for this?
Am I ever?
Never.
Never.